call the meeting to order. Everybody had a chance at the meeting minutes? Working on it. I'll make a motion. Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second? Yeah, I'll second. Mr. Gadsden?
He's on his way. How did you get a hold of him? I called him folks. You can run, but you can't hide.
Can you please scour the restaurant? Is there a restaurant?
I said there's
Poor guy just wanted to go
there's an old man there by the name of Bob Stout who's having coffee right now. Could you please
We got a
tell him
motion on the floor here.
Yes, yes.
Is there any questions or corrections? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public comment, we got nobody in here.
Do you want me to open the door?
It's recording.
Is Rich?
No, Rich is unable to today.
Yes, okay.
If we need him, he would be on the phone. But
Okay. Jeremy?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, I chose to sit over here so that change up the perspective. Maybe it'll be more positive.
He's coming from a different angle, is what he's trying to say.
So, I'm Jamie Book today. So, good morning, everybody. I always say thanks for coming to work. I appreciate it today. I've got 3 agenda items that I would like to have for your consideration and topic and to get your perspective. Each and every time that I come to personnel, I make it a point to do my best to try to outline it ahead of time. And so I did send you guys some information. I think Ashley maybe forwarded it for me. I will put that up here on the screen for you. Just generally speaking, my notes, but it's the rationale as to the asks and the things that I have here in front of you. I also always say that I cannot critique or I cannot propose something without some kind of solution. And so on these 3 topics, I have solutions that are for your consideration. So I'm just going to take them in order, if that's okay. The mobile crisis compensation. The information that I sent out is we have a 24/7, 365 mobile crisis face-to-face response program within our department. It's comprised of 8 individuals on a rotation basis. It's basically our children and family services and our adult services staff that responds to youth justice, mental health, AODA crisis, and adult protection services, CPS, child protection services, and I think executive justice. My ask here today is that for as long as I can remember, we have compensated our mobile crisis response way back 26 years ago when I started at the person's rate of pay, and we require them as a job assignment to be a part of that rotation in those 2 departments. And it's very important. I've got charts and graphs that I can show you. I've shared this before. We have seen a reduction in our face-to-face requirement to get out to talk to folks when they are in crisis. Culminating in last year, we had 66 calls. You can see a few years ago, down here, you can see that in 22 we had 66. This 2017 going back, we were doing 129 assessments, 129 face-to-face assessments of folks that are having difficulty with any one of those service arrays within our department. And so it's very important. It's a very important contact for us and those types of things. And so my ask, and simply here in the middle of my note, is it's very simple. I would like to add 1 additional hour of compensation, which is at the person carrying the cell phone, at their rate of pay, 1 additional hour. Okay, so we basically have 365 events. We have 365 days, and at an average salary of the new wage adjustment, I believe that the estimated cost based on that average, is $9,453.50. And so our current cost is $12,665.10, which is absorbed within our budget, within each program, and allocated out based on our granting through Children and Family Services and Adult Services. So you can see the ask there it is based on that rotation. Just a quick historical piece, I put it in the narrative just to refresh it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, staff receives 1 hour of compensation. Either it's cash or compensatory time. On Saturday, they receive 2 hours, and on Sunday, they receive 2 hours. And that's just for carrying the phone. That's just for being on call. If they are then activated to be required to come in to work with law enforcement or a hospital or something, we have a separate calculation based on their face-to-face assessment time. But it's still at their rate of pay. It's time and a half, like a minimum of 3 hours, which is 2 hours plus the time and a half. And so this does not touch any of that. This request is only to cover the time that they are required to hold the pager. I say pager, I'm old. It used to be a pager, a little black pager that you put on your belt in 1984. But it's we just have a cell phone that they carry. So this is something, again, I've reported out to anybody that would listen. This is a mobile crisis effort. This is attempting to do least restrictive community-based placement with folks that are experiencing oftentimes those 66. It's a mental health or an alcohol and drug crisis scenario. So again, the rationale, the solution behind this is that we receive Medicaid reimbursement. So if a person comes in and they have Medicaid and we're assessing them face to face, we have a client rights package, informed consent, and all of these documents that we roll through to make sure that we're capturing all of the event. We can bill Medicaid for mobile crisis time. So we capture, you can see up here, we capture about $6,282 in general. Some more, some less, average $6,500 to $7,000 annually. Something we have not been doing that is part of this solution is that once that event is over of crisis, we then have an opportunity that we've never done before, is to track them with our follow-up and linkage that we're doing anyway. We can leave them in what's called a crisis status with a PPS system, but it's a PPS system where we can continue to follow up and link them with capturing additional Medicaid reimbursement if they are a Medicaid recipient. And so again, that number could get bigger depending on Mr. Stuck. So again, that is that is a part of the solution. That rate for reimbursement through Medicaid is $43.77, and so that's an hourly rate. So what we do is we capture all this time, we do all this documentation, and then our financial staff submits this off to Medicaid for reimbursement. So this is a mandatory program. It is, as you can see, it's a very underfunded program. That's one of those things that we talk about a fair amount of regularity in our department and how important it is. The key thing that you're seeing here with the reduction in calls is we are assessing the folks that are in crisis. We are not just assessing anybody that walks in the door. This is a person that is actively having suicidal, homicidal, or the inability to care for themselves type of consumer that is very important, that they are not going to cost us potentially deeper in services down the road. And we keep our community, our consumers in the community at a clip historically of about 75% of the time. And so the other options are sometimes they're a participant in criminal activity, they end up living in the jail house, they voluntarily go to the hospital, or we have to then Chapter 51. And our numbers in the region have been super low comparatively because we go out and we face-to-face these folks and get to know them in a crisis scenario and then help them create a recovery. Okay? Downside. Okay? Now that I've levied that on you, there is a downside. Okay? Our personnel handbook, Jamie Wilk is my sounding board. She no longer takes my calls. But when I call her, I can bank on her giving me a real life look at things. And so the cons of this would simply be is that this could potentially impact 2 other departments, but at the same time, this is very near and dear to my heart because this is when folks are in crisis. So, could impact highway and maintenance and those kinds of things because they have the responsibility to respond in too. Okay? Crisis does not happen 8 to 4:30 when we have a full staff sitting in our office, nor does it happen in maintenance or does it happen in highway. And so, there are some things. The other things that could be impactful here is that this does impact our budget. We have a requirement to offer this service, and as a result, we're going to respond every single time. And so there is a budget impact. We would go from about, like I said, $12,665.10 on a just kind of an average basis for this service. We're going to add, I potentially would add $9,453.50 to that. And so with offsetting the reimbursement through Medicaid opportunities and capturing additional dollars, that's my request. Questions? Please ask. Yeah.
Say again, how much of that is grant reimbursable?
So
of the excess?
Yep. So any of this cost is subject to Medicaid funding. Okay, is one component. As a result, we pay our staff for the requirement out of our Children and Family Services block grant and our Adult Services block grant. And I don't say we always, but we absorb that cost within that granting. Okay. As a result, though, we have a levy ask. For our whole 7 departments, annually, historically, we've had less than $900,000 to run those 7 departments. And we know that they are widely underfunded. A good majority of everything we do is widely underfunded. But the granting, this is included within that granting with the trickle-down algorithm. This is how much levy we need to run our programs. Okay? And so again, I will never sit here in front of you and say, this is fully funded except for CCS. Okay? But this is a trickle-down that's a part of what we do.
Could this be reported similar to CCS in Wincur if we separated it into its own?
So I think we do, and again, it's probably a pretty small piece because of the Medicaid reimbursement, but that's a great thing is that I know Tanya has started to include things that, so Wincur is anything that you do that is Medicaid funded, you report to this portal, and it's this crazy algorithm sheet, and it reimburses you at a portion of your cost because they know that Medicaid pays a lower rate for things. And so we get back reimbursement not only for CCS, for community support program, we have there's a couple other things in there, Medicaid reimbursement for CLTS that we're going to talk about, and some of those kinds of things. So I think it's captured in there, but maybe there's a little more robust opportunity within the Wincur system. See what she does? Either way, we will always try to capture as many dollars as we possibly can out of any granting that we do. The other thing I forgot to say is these 3 items that I'm bringing to you today have all went through our Human Services Board. Okay, and I think sometimes, and everybody's going to tell you this, when you as a department head go to your board, they trust you. Okay, so sometimes it's like, I really want them to critique the living daylights out of what I'm asking. Okay, because sometimes it's like, hey, you guys do some great stuff. Thank you. Take it on to the next step. But there's a sequential series of steps. That's why I'm here today, is to have additional looks at these kinds of things. So if you have questions or you don't think it's a good idea, that's okay. All right? It's just, I really value recruitment and retention of our staff, and the more we can be creative with a solution to compensate them for when we have to wake them up in the middle of the night to go talk to somebody that's experiencing a significant mental health crisis at the hospital. They get their clothes on at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have to go, and they have to do all this work. I would like to compensate that additionally with this process.
Jeremy, are they not going to take some people off of Medicaid because of budget funding kind of thing? big league in Tucker.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's.
I heard that on TV here.
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time, I can tell you this, we spend a lot of time linking folks to our economic support to determine if they're eligible for Medicaid, because we get a lot of folks that come through our department that have no insurance, but yet, you know, they're experiencing all kinds of difficulties, multiple difficulties with various things. And so the rate of people signing up for Medicaid is not slowing down, and I do not see it subsiding by any means.
Well, we're cutting back on it,
We have not experienced that.
Not here.
It's gonna,
It was just on the news here in the last few days.
100%, and that I think might be, and I'm guessing here, but that may be part of the rollback from COVID.
Yes.
And so as we unwind from COVID, there's some folks that are gonna have to submit their documents because they may not be eligible. And it isn't because they did anything wrong, it's just COVID allowed for that opportunity to be.
Right, that's what's going down is that part.
So that unwinding, so if you're out and about and you're in our department, slide by our economic support, because they're gonna need some oxygen. Because as they unwind all these folks, there are going to be millions of people in Wisconsin that are gonna have to get back to providing documents that justify their eligibility. And so that's a big deal. I mean, that's a super big deal. But there will be people that will be ineligible for Medicaid or other child care services or food share or some of those kinds of things because of the unwinding. So that might be what you're. I'm guessing. I'm guessing on that one.
Close enough.
Again, I'm sorry, was there a question? No.
Jim, you're on finance, but I guess I wish some of this stuff come up and be budgeted in instead of continually coming up in the middle of the budget cycle. I don't know where Jamie or Jim stands on that. I mean, you're finance.
My concern is not about the funding of it. I think that, you know, there's a lot of funding available within HHS for it. My main concern is setting a precedent for the on-call, which you know, the on-call for HHS is different from highway, which is different from maintenance, and they all have their different areas, but that's my main concern. But we also need to be able to retain employees, and you know, my sister just left as a social worker, and the on-call was a huge burden for her with having young children at home. So, you know, maybe having that extra hour a day would help keep people here.
And that can be used as comp time, is how you're doing it right now?
They can do cash or comp in both scenarios. If you want the event of carrying the phone, can be cash or comp. And then if you get called in, that can be a cash or comp event. And so that is clearly spelled out in our personnel handbook. It's as being an old timer, before we used to only take it as compensatory time. And so the cash option is recent. I can't give you that date, but it's only within the last half a dozen years, give or take.
It's been like that at least since I started in 18, but.
Okay. So it has not been for a long time that you could choose cash or comp. It was always compensatory time when I was growing up here.
And you're saying right now we have, well, you didn't see this. We have some, I guess I'm not remembering just what's in that handbook regarding this. Do we have something in stone in there regarding on-call?
Yes.
Or no matter what department? So it applies to everybody.
Well,
This is social workers and highway.
And maintenance.
Maintenance there too.
Isn't highway, they've already got a set schedule for guys carrying the on-call for it, or call-in time, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't think that's, yeah.
And maintenance has the same thing. I'm curious here, but I think it was developed that maintenance has the same kind of rotation of some style, just like we do. It just.
yeah, maintenance and highway are a little bit different in that the person that's on call for maintenance and highway isn't always the person that actually has to physically report in if somebody needs to report in. So sometimes there's highway guys that are getting paid to be on call when they're actually on PTO that week. So.
Another component to this is, my ask is to do this on 1/1/2024. And so it's not, I don't want to implement this immediately here in 2023. because I think there are some logistics of, I wanna square around some of the language in the personnel handbook, because we have some folks that claim some mileage and doing some of these other things that I think would need to be shored up again, Jamie, that there's some other logistics around maybe some personnel handbook language. And so I just think there's some things there that could be shored up. Specifically talk about the functional response and requirement. I would still have to go to finance, okay? To follow this procedure, I feel a lot better if, regardless, if you approve it today or you table it today, you want me to come back with some additional information? Gotta go back with that.
It's a minute, I'm more on board with the single step of 1/1/24 than I am, say, going into effect, first of June or something like that.
Yeah, and our budgeting won't, our budgeting won't change a bunch, other than to say, hey, this is a thing, but it's such a moving target. We could go right back to 129 calls, 147 calls, 2024. So it would definitely have an impact as to kind of a moving target.
So, make sure I got this right after reading this here, Jeremy. So this one in here states Monday through Friday, 1 hour. Or no, Monday through Thursday, 1 hour, I'm sorry. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up to 5 hours. So the way you're doing it now with 1 on Friday yet, and then that's 2 per day on Saturday, Sunday, you're at the 5 hours.
Yeah, same thing.
So
The rotation,
you're just doing a different, yeah, it comes out the same.
the rotation in we have a calendar flip chart that the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is an individual event. They rotate that day, and then they rotate Friday, Saturday, Sunday as a whole. And so compensation is 5 hours for the weekend.
Okay.
But oftentimes, workers are shifting because they have something going on the weekend, so they might be on call Friday, Saturday to give somebody else the pager. It's 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, 1 hour on Friday. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday is
So
generally.
the weekend ain't necessarily going to one person, that is what you're saying.
The majority of the time it is, but the option of switching is available.
They take care of that themselves.
100%. Ashley and Chris Saltis take care of that.
See, the problem here is, it's already been discussed in highway, of changing that up a little bit, but it's only been discussed. Nothing was, so we were kind of tabling it there to see how the new commissioner sat in and how he felt about some of it after, this was a couple months ago, we discussed it before we were gonna interview the commissioner. So that one's up in the air too, so to really make a policy that it would, and my thought is to make a policy that's gonna affect all 3 departments, you're either gonna have to single this department out, and leave the other 2 in, or you're gonna have to revisit this for all 3 departments and get the other 2 departments taken where their needs are.
In reality though, shouldn't all 3 departments kind of be separated on their own, because all 3 departments actually operate in a completely different manner.
I would agree with that,
So-
but that's not the way this reads right now, that's our
I
problem.
understand
They
that.
haven't changed.
I think they should be individual, I guess I never realized they were all one until,
They're all completely different from what they have to do.
yeah, what their departmental needs are.
I understand that, the employee retention on all 3 facets, but I think all 3 facets are almost oranges and apples from each other. I mean, Jeremy's situation, and I'm sure it probably, I'm gonna guess some of it rotates around some holidays where your call numbers would rise. The highway department, rotates more around winter snow and ice removal. I mean, there's some in the summertime, don't get me wrong. And maintenance is basically 24/7, 365, because you have no idea when the water main is gonna start leaking, or AC or heater's gonna go down. I mean, so they're all 3. I don't understand how we can lump them together and be.
Right, cause each
fair.
department's gonna have different needs.
Right.
The other part you're gonna read in there too is that on our holidays, the staff receives an additional 2 hours of compensation at their rate for holiday. My request does not impact that.
Okay.
That's already 2 additional. The other thing is, we tend to have less calls on holidays. That's just historically, we have less calls.
I would actually think you'd tell me one of those.
That's,
It's really weird.
well,
It's
I
weird,
would have
but
thought that
Christmas,
too.
holiday, Thanksgiving, all those holidays, very rarely. Very.
How about the day after?
It's usually about a week or 2 weeks, maybe a month after, where we see, because, the fall, it's generally seasonal. The fall is generally a tough time with weather change, and the spring, same thing. Weather change has a huge effect on our mental health and ALD.
Yeah.
You get like more in the winter, especially on a long winter. You know, they say how that affects people sometimes.
Where we see it is in our crisis line. If I go back historically, you can see that there are more crisis line calls rather than mobile crisis response calls during the winter time. And again, like you said, based on duration, when it snowed 14 inches or whatever we got that day, or when the trees snapped off and we had all that kind of stuff, we had more crisis line calls because people are worried. They're worried about what's going to happen to them. They're worried about their neighbors and their friends and their elderly. And so we see an increase there, but that generally doesn't require any kind of response because we purchased that system from a company that is a real live person that takes that call. They reassure them, we get a report back, and then we do the follow-up communication.
Because I noticed it in mine where people seem to get a lot more moody in the general public when the days are shorter.
Spring and fall, just about everybody in Rusk County feels like that. Mr. Meyer, is that they start getting a little wiggly. It really just, it's change of season.
I get that way in the fall. I know winter's coming. Things I want to get done because I know when the snow flies, there's a lot of things I can't do.
And in spring, you're antsy. You want the.
Yeah, I'm antsy, ready to go. Yep.
Any more discussion here?
We wanna table this right until.
I don't think we have much choice.
I mean, if it's not till 2024, something.
Otherwise, we're gonna have to have an actual policy ready to vote on based on this for this one department.
Well, thanks for bringing it up. We had it definitely this time too.
I would love to be a part of any conversation that you would allow the department head to come to in order to give that perspective. Because I agree with everything you've said is we're different. And again, not that we're different, better or worse, our responsibility and requirements are way different than responding to fix a water main break.
Well, and I don't think, I'll just speak for myself, but I don't think anybody's saying you're wrong by bringing it to our attention, but for us to jump into it, I think both feet right up and go without addressing the rest of it, I think would be wrong.
Correct. And even if you say no, that's great too. So, even if we get down the road and we say, hey,
Are you sure?
yeah, 100%. If you don't ask, you don't know,
Well,
right?
I understand, I don't want to speak for everybody else.
Here, you want me just to write that? Gosh.
Yeah, we don't need no action. No motion to table it, nothing, because it's a possible motion. Okay, number 2, Jeremy.
All right, so, number 2 has to do with, in 2016, and again, I've got some notes here that I just want to reference. In 2016, there was a motion, actually not a motion, I think there was an agenda item on the personnel committee member, community, there was a personnel agenda item requested by Ted East, who was the Human Services Director at that time. You can see here the kind of the timeline. There was a creation of a point factor job description for a deputy director position, okay, within Human Services. And that was brought to the personnel committee at that
You're
time.
on number 3, not number 2.
Sorry. Oh, no. Number 2 is,
Skip the.
okay, I'll come, oh, that's your agenda, sorry. Can I keep talking about this one, even though it's not in order?
But you gotta-
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
He's on a roll.
He's on a roll.
It's my notes versus your agenda.
He's got 45 seconds into this already.
We're at least like to start over again.
I was gonna say.
You got 3 minutes.
We're catching that quick. 2016, in July, there was an agenda item to create a job description under then the point factor process to create a deputy director position in Health and Human Services. Ted East asked for that position to be appointed to Jeremy Jacobs. At that time, I was the adult services manager. And so that occurred. There was minutes. There was minutes that I could find from the personnel meeting, but there was no additional action, which I thought was interesting. There was no county board action as a resolution to create that position. There was no compensation with that position, and as a result, it kind of just was there in the minutes in July of 2016. The appointment was made, I believe, August of 2016, and so I assumed those duties and learned the things as Ted was experiencing them as the Human Services Director. My proposal today is to launch that job description, is what I sent you, to you, is to create a job description that, so here's the point factor job description that was developed. That was again under that process. You can find bear with me 1 second here. Here, I'm sorry, I had that in there. Either way, my request is what I attached to you in an email. Is the job description of under the new format for your consideration of a deputy director position. That position would be first offered to our admin staff within Human Services, and anybody that would determine that they would be interested in that position would need to be interviewed. It would not be an additional full-time employment. It would be a job assignment. My proposal is that this is a maximum of 5 hours a month, 60 hours a year, which some months you would use more, some months I think you would use less. But nonetheless, all of the point factor information was then brought over to this proposed job description. The language is in here about that one. Everybody that I pulled in our region, they offer that to their Health and Human Services administration team first. If nobody there is interested, then they go to the county to see if anybody is interested. If nobody's interested there, then they go outside with a recruitment. And so I think it's very important from a succession standpoint. And again, I dipped my toe in employment outside of here, realized that I'm a county guy, and by only the briefs of the option to come back. During that period, I realized that there are a lot of things as I was drafting the duties for the next person. There are a lot of things that none of our administration team has any idea about. Our budget, the inner workings of our department, the flow of this process, and all those kinds of things. There are a lot of things that are I think could be passed along from a succession planning standpoint.
That would be I think at the point in time when you do change directors, I think it would be a lot more seamless transition, providing the person that had the deputy is the one that dictate,
Because again, that would be a responsibility of the county to not only have that person apply for the position, but then they need to be interviewed. And so you're not steering it to where you're saying, hey, this person's gonna get the job in succession planning. However, you get run over by a bus tomorrow, whatever, those kinds of things. And so again, I just think it's very important to have the opportunity to have somebody learn some things that we can pass along while we have time.
How many total employees do you have up there, Jeremy?
Oh boy.
Give me a ballpark.
50.
I won't hold you to it.
50.
Okay.
With our senior services staff and our non-full FTEs.
I'm gonna use this as help. I mean, he's got 50 employees up there, and he really at this point doesn't have a backup. At least at Highway, when we had to make when a change was made there, the operations manager had the ability to step in and knew the day-to-day operations. I'm kind of surprised that this didn't go through back in 16.
I don't think it got taken into the next step. But I
Well, that's what it appears.
Yeah, it's confined.
you can't find anything in county board, or something, it would have had to come as a form of a resolution, job description to the board, that either way, if it wasn't in the minutes, that should at least be there, correct?
Yeah.
So all I could find was the minutes from July and August in personnel. They just said, hey, Ted East would like to appoint Jeremy Jacobs as the deputy director.
So if you, just so I understand you 110%, if someone chooses within your department to take this position on, it's just gonna be a little extra they're going to do in a sense, and get a title and compensation for it, but we're not gonna have to replace that person and add another one back in.
In fact, I think in talking with both Jamie and Ashley, my proposal is a stipend, rather than adding it to like a Carlson-Dettman wage study type of thing. At first I was fishing around with, could we, bump them a step and all that kind of stuff. That gets too convoluted. We get too many moving parts for that. And so this is just nothing more than what I'm doing right now, but I talked with 7 managers about things. Their job is first and foremost. I can pass along anything that is procedural. It's very important. It's very important for them to understand why you come and ask for additional compensation for on-call, and why that might get derailed. That's very important. I'm not going to walk away from your desk. Okay? It's very important. It's a process. And it's either yes or no. But that information is very important for somebody other than just me in our department to understand the importance of what we do.
With everything HHS does, across the board, I think it's only a smart business decision to have someone that at least is 85–90% of the way fluent of this job. Because as you said, any one of us could walk out here today and drop dead on the sidewalk or get in a car accident going home, and then where does your department land?
I think it's, again, I wouldn't bring any of these things forward if I didn't wholeheartedly believe in them. I always tell you that I wear my emotions on my sleeve. It's very important, and with stepping away and then coming back, it even became more on the forefront as to just that fact, is that there's knowledge that I think that makes us better as an administrative team. There's knowledge that is intergovernmental process that my 7 managers have no idea. Add an hour to the compensation for the on-call. Why wouldn't you? Okay, because there's a process that impacts a lot of things. Budget, where do you draw down the Medicaid, all those kinds of things. Those are things I know because I was afforded the opportunity. Okay. The other side of this is I have to give you a solution. Okay. All right. Ready? Okay. Here's the solution. I would like you to reduce my salary. Okay. I want you. I'm serious. Okay. This is a serious component. I put it up here so you can say you wrote it. Okay. I would like you to reduce my salary by at least $1 per hour to create a stipend for $2,015 for the person to receive for compensation to be the deputy director.
I got a question now. Are you talking one person, or would there be a possibility
One person.
Because I was gonna say, what if that one person decides to quit? Then we start from square one again?
Yeah, we just reassign, because it would be a job assignment within our department,
Okay.
of somebody that's interested. Now, so again, we kind of chuckle at this. Jamie, I thought, was going to come through the phone and choke me. And Ashley had the same thing. What are you thinking? Okay, here's my rationale. And again, I just say it as it is. So I'm going to say it as it is. The Carlson-Dettman wage study and implementation and all that stuff. I'm very thankful for all of that. I've never dreamt big enough to think that I would make this kind of salary as a bachelor's level knucklehead. Okay? And I'm just gonna tell you that. Okay? I have a lot of responsibility. I take this responsibility very seriously. Again, I dipped my toe out in the pool. I didn't like it. Okay? And so I was able to come back. I take my responsibilities very seriously. Step 1 is super great. I'm on step 2. I never dreamt that big. Okay? So if it's important for me from a succession planning standpoint, I would like you to reduce my salary by $1.50 to not only give anybody that would be interested the $2,015 in the stipend, annually, okay? And then also, the rest of it would cover the payroll responsibilities, okay? And so essentially, I would go back to like just below step one. I know you're not gonna do that, okay? But however, there's room to at least reduce me to step one, okay? Instead of step two. No, stop shaking your head, okay? Stop shaking your head, everybody. Just kidding. That would be, I have to offer you a solution because this is a big deal, okay? The good thing about this, other than everything that's been said, we absorb this money just like I'm talking about the mobile crisis. My salary is spread across all departments, okay? So if you look at our budget, executive director is like on line 2, okay? And based on an FTE and the percentage into their FTEs, my salary is spread throughout that whole thing, okay? So this impact is $2,015 plus $2,000 is what I would say. It's $33 an hour based on 60 hours a year, which is right where my administration team is on an average, okay? But I would like to contribute to it, and I'm very serious about that. And again, you can say no, whatever, I'm not gonna be mad, but I think it's that important. And it's, when we go back to talking about the rumor mill, I still hear the rumor mill that it's gonna be Ashley Nelson, and she's gonna get a huge pay, okay? I've heard this, people have said this to me, people have brought it to me. I don't give 2 bits of you know what, who it is, okay? But the person that steps up and says, I'm interested in doing this, they're gonna do it because they for a reason, because they wanna do it, okay? And I wanna compensate them. And so, if that means reducing my salary to step 1 or below, please do it. I'm willing to do that. I want that to be considered in any action that we do with this. So,
And this,
I don't.
and this was also approved by Health, your board?
yes.
Okay. And how did they exactly approve it? Was it you getting a pay reduction? Or did they leave that open?
They left that open.
Okay.
And so I determined, I told them, I said, here's the deal. I said the same thing. You know, I didn't dream for this big. I probably should have, maybe. That's not what bad. But this is super great. And I'm very thankful for that. And at the same time, I have a responsibility to be fiscally responsible within my department. And I like money. I like putting money in the bank. I like all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think it's very important. And so my ask today is 2 things, and you can determine the finance thing. But my ask would be is to approve the job description at this level, okay? Because then we are creating a position, because it never got done before, okay? So I would ask that we create the position. The position is written as an FTE. It's not an FTE. This is 60 hours a year. This is 5 hours a month times 12, 60 hours a month on average at $2,000 is $33 and some change of fiscal impact to our department.
You said 60 hours a month, 60 hours a year.
A year. 60 hours a year.
That's right.
And I'm not trying to make the motion, okay?
No, but I just wanted.
It's 5 hours a month, 60 hours annually, and that will be a rolling type of thing. And I would request that it's a stipend for any candidate that would be interested, that would be chosen to.
And what's your thought if you have more than 1 person interested within your department? We're gonna have to go through an interview process.
100%.
And the same as we handle it for anything else.
100%. I want an ad hoc. I want to have creative questions. I want to do the whole works just like we normally would, because I'm tired of the rumor mill as well. And this is bigger than rumor mill, which it's bigger than rumor mill. This is the fundamental function of what we do as an agency. This is succession planning. This is structural integrity.
Jeremy, how would you handle, I would assume, maybe I shouldn't assume, because that always, well, there are all screw-ups, but for sake of saying, I would assume, say you go on vacation for 10 days, something with your family, whatever. I would assume this person then would actually fill your shoes for them 10 days, which is gonna create more than the 60 hours allotted for this.
Not at all. Not at all. Here's the beauty. If you look at the job description, there's all kinds of things in there. The fundamental things we would be looking at is learning the My Viewpoint to approve invoices that come through. the things that we spend money on need approval in a very timely fashion. That's a component. Understanding the flow of our finance department in approving invoices, asking questions, solidifying what they're for, those kinds of things. The fundamental inner workings of our budget, okay? Yikes, okay? All 5,000 pages of that thing, okay? Is understanding how we arrive at numbers, how we calculate and take a 3-year look back, give or take, and develop that budget. Personnel, the things we do in our human services department that tries to manifest our recruitment and retention, okay? That's not something that you just have. You have to teach that. You have to go around the department and you need to talk to people. You need to learn what makes them tick. You need to understand how to put people in good situations, okay? Those are the things I'm talking about to start with the deputy director, is some very serious things like the budget, and other things are learning what our department does, not only for our customers, but for our employees. And that's very important to me, okay? That's selfish, but that's very important to me, that's a fundamental core of this position. And I've talked to a lot of human services directors, and that's what their people are doing. Family goes on vacation, I take my computer with me now, okay? And I answer all my emails and all that kind of stuff. That won't change, I just won't take my computer anymore, okay? Do an auto office reply, that kind of stuff. But those emails will be waiting for me when I come back. The deputy director position only does the day-to-day functions that need to be done in the absence of the human services director.
Okay.
And I'm dead serious about the wage, okay? And I know you're not gonna do it.
No, I strongly advise against
I
it.
don't think that's,
You can write out an extra donation to UNICEF for something like that. That's what I mean, I'm not being, but if that's, I don't like going down that road either myself, but.
You're charging 50 people, then
I have to offer a solution.
and I guess one more thing, I'm
appreciate it.
step on your toes a little bit. I don't think this is selfish, what you just said. I think it's good business and it's looking down the road for the good of the county. So you're not being selfish by doing this. I think you're looking out.
What's your thoughts on the job description? You're good at picking them apart. You've been pretty quiet.
Yeah. I like
I
it.
don't like it when you're quiet.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are asking the questions I had, really good questions. I like it, the only thing is, and I think the assistant, we should be looking at this. The job description, so the job and the bill is to do it, but I think there should be something in there, the willingness to do the job on an interim basis, so if he does on FLMA or quits, we shouldn't have to have our administrative coordinator be an interim, so
They shouldn't be expected to be the interim at that same rate of pay though.
there might need to be a statement, but they should be willing to step up. I mean, if they're gonna get trained in to do this, well, we do need them to step up.
Right.
To step up for it.
I would agree with what you're saying.
That, this was part of the discussion with another human services director in town. The additional tasks and responsibilities, they felt in their organization that was expressed and informed consent within that paragraph, is that should the human services director become incapacitated in some fashion, they are accepting the responsibility on that interim basis. But it doesn't say that, but that was the interpretation that
Like,
Or maybe like ability to perform,
well, the
you know,
bill
to
is
do the
there.
job in the absence.
Well, yeah, I mean, there'll be an expectation to perform on an interim basis as needed.
If needed, not as if.
Yeah, it does say, right, you know, Jonathan, under purpose of position, it does say acts as the director in the director's absence.
Where was that?
Scroll up a little bit, on the first page, just right underneath, purpose of position. Right, yeah, right there, the last sentence there.
Acts as the director in the director's absence and performs other duties as assigned.
Well, as long as that's
Okay,
clear.
would that person be with you more during the budget process?
So the good news is, Laura Weimer only has so much room in her office with, as our financial person, so all three of us can fit our feet in her footwell to get the budget done, but 100% yes. The budget is such a, we're going to start talking about, getting together and talk about it because we started. And so I would want this person to participate in that.
Yeah.
Because it's very time consuming, it's very important. It's about what we're doing next.
Jonathan, I think that paragraph does cover what I was asking.
5 hours a month, 60 hours a year, is the basis. You know, if it's more than 60, whoever the person would be is accepting that they would do these things throughout the year. It's my responsibility to kind of keep it around that 60.
Are there any other questions for Jeremy at this point?
No, if we so choose to approve this, it's gonna go on to, is this gonna need to go to finance also?
I think it probably should, yes.
I'm thinking so also, and then go on to county board and approve there.
Well, it's a needed position. If Ted saw that, you know, that he was thinking along the same lines.
Yeah, for some reason, whatever that may be.
Wherever it got dropped off, then time to pick it.
You don't remember it ever coming up in the past along the way, huh?
I'm sure we talked about it.
Because he could, I don't remember, was he in here when you were talking about the history, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Sorry.
Well, I'm an EDO general.
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve for the job description of create position.
I'll second
And
it.
pass it on to finance.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Mr. Myers, second by Mr. Stout. Is there any further questions? The motion that's on the floor? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much on the first two. I appreciate it big time.
You guys would give me about 2 minutes. With my supply of coffee from this one.
You're going rabbit hunting this weekend, Ashley?
I'm going rabbit hunting?
Looking for money, aren't you?
Oh. I was like, hang on.
But I kinda wanna see this.
I already went, it's called Candy Bear.
Okay.
I was writing.
So glad you could make it, Bob.
That?
So glad you could make it.
Yeah. Well, I'd have been here 3 o'clock.
Were you inside having coffee, or? I drove through,
Where'd you get
I
out?
looked in the window, I didn't see you. I must have went right through before you, it was about a little after 8.
I talked to your wife and she told me where you were. I said, oh, I'm just gonna show up there, like, just call there.
It will eventually, it'll be positioned.
Back today when I didn't have my phone to take it or anything.
Yeah, we'll, we get to
Remember, you can run, but you can't.
get through finance.
Takes good anyway.
In anticipation of county board, I would have to take that then to go back to my.
It's getting expensive to drive through there anymore.
Yeah, right.
You gotta get the app.
What do you,
It's always cute on
It's
it.
really.
really?
It's so worth it.
Super
I mean,
Gary.
we may go there more
I
often.
just hate having all those,
Yeah.
I hate having all those stupid. But they always ask you, you're ordering with the app. So how does that work? You order ahead of time, or you just still go through the drive-thru and then give the code?
Check it, yeah. Or you can spend it up front and bring it out to your door.
I thought this was gonna cost you money.
Then they're gonna want a tip.
So we're changing the run of it down thing anyway.
Yep.
Okay. Very specifically, item number 2 on your agenda, but item number 3 for me is, this is more complex than those first 2. However, I think it's got a relatively easy solution. For as long as I can remember, we had 2 positions in Health and Human Services that were combo positions. We had a children's long-term support worker and the birth to 3 worker, which were a combined position, full-time employee. And then we have the disability benefit specialist in the ADRC and a children's long-term support specialist that is a combo position. A few years ago, 2020, we split the birth to 3 children's long-term support position, separate FTEs. Without open session without getting anything that would be considered performance evaluation. The FTE for the children's long-term support has been super functional. It's been great. The birth to 3 is a contracted position and it is going equally as well. And those are two fundamental cores of what we do at our department. Currently, our disability benefit specialist and our children's long-term support combo position, the person gave me their notice this morning that they are leaving our department. Okay? I knew this was coming, I just didn't think right now, but this person is leaving our department. I already had this presented to our committee. I already had this on for this agenda today. But here's the nuts and bolts of what happens. This chart that I'm going to show you, and I've showed it to you before, is insane. This is our children's long-term support / comprehensive community services. And what happens is, over time, you can see, in 2018 on the left-hand side, CCS was a comprehensive community services was a part of our program. But what happened was we did not have a whole ton of enrollment. And so when you look at the red line, this is what I'm bringing your attention to today. The red line is the kids that are duly enrolled. They're in both children's long-term support and they're in comprehensive community services. You can see how that has grown. We went from 2 to 31. More importantly, the blue line are the kids that are enrolled in just children's long-term support. Okay? We went from in 2018 where we capped it, even though I say this, we historically capped children's long-term support at 20 kids. Okay? Because there was an initiative in 2019 where the state said, let's not have a wait list anymore for children's long-term support. Kids with disabilities that need services for them and their family to be included in the community. In this case, you can see we have had 120% growth from that cap number because we had an FTE plus a 1/3 position is all we had to cover those 29 cases in 2018. Okay? So we say, for easy purposes, 1.25 full-time employees to cover 29 cases. Piece of cake. One of them had 20, one of them had 9. Okay? Piece of cake. We still have the same FTE count for now the 82 kids that are enrolled in that program. Okay? So we have the 1 FTE is covering 52 cases. Okay? And the 0.25, 0.3 FTE, which is actually acting as a 0.5, is covering the other 30 cases. Okay? The best practice state guidelines for caseload management is like 30. Okay? And so very simply today, based on this graph and things that I've shared with you before, I really am encouraging this committee to allow me to split those positions. I'm going to give you the rationale and all that fun stuff. Split the position of the disability benefit specialist in the ADRC and the children's long-term support specialist. So essentially, we would have 2 full-time employees to cover the children's long-term support, and the disability benefit specialist would handle their own cases. Because the disability benefit specialist is a part of this, that person right now is operating on 60 cases, and their suggestion for a full-time employee through the state is 30. Okay? So again, and that position is 0.75 on paper, 0.66 on paper. Okay? And they're operating at almost double the caseload separately for disability benefit specialists and carrying a 30+ caseload for children's long-term support. Okay? So there's the shock. Okay? But then in addition, I literally this morning, last night I got a text at 7:45 that the person that's doing this position that I'm talking about splitting took other employment, and they will be with us until the 29th of May. And so I'm a little panicked, not gonna lie, because we have this type of caseload, but that does not weigh in to this decision. Okay, we're gonna adjust no matter what. Okay, that cannot weigh into this decision. But the facts of the case are right here. Our comprehensive community services that I pester you about all the time, to bringing the people in from the contracted employees to where we're hiring 2 additional staff and it's 100% Medicaid funded. We now are nearing 90 people in that program. 31 of them are kiddos. Okay? So we have.
Jeremy, sorry to interrupt, but I'll forget the question if I wait as long as you talk, so. No names, no, nothing like that, but are we losing this person because they don't have full-time employment or because they're squashed?
They have full-time employment. This person is a full-time
Okay.
employee of ours. They
Is
just
it-
happen to do two responsibilities.
Is it to the point then that they're just so overloaded?
Partially, but it's money.
Okay, okay.
There's money and the fact that they have to wear two hats during the day multiple times. Okay? This person has been talking to me about this for a long time. Okay? They've all been beating me down. That sounds terrible. They've all been beating me down about this because all we've done is watch this happen. We haven't adjusted, and that's on me. Okay? We haven't adjusted because the two staff are pretty good at juggling their hats, and the one FTE that used to be birth to three, that made a world of difference. That freed up a ton of time. Okay? We split this to where we can do a full-time employee in children's long-term support. It's gonna take care of that. Okay? Because then coupled with comprehensive community services, we've got some fundamental structure that's going to free up time for both of the children's long-term support people because we have more CCS staff to cover some of the duly enrolled. Okay? So again, it's like a gigantic math problem, but at the end of the day is we do not have the FTE capacity to properly process the cases we have right now in children's long-term support. We just don't have it. Okay? So
Have you got any future outlook on this?
So regionally, we talk about this and we're all trying to determine when the ceiling is. Here's what happened. Fundamentally, and I use that term a lot, fundamentally, our department relies on referral. Okay? The basis of our referral is hospitals, community awareness, those kinds of things for any of our programs. Children's long-term support, birth to three is where it starts. At birth to three, children's long-term support, children and family services, ADRC, managed care. That's our continuum of care. This is where we start. Okay? This is the fundamental core of how people enter our system. Because of awareness that programming is available, we are receiving historically huge referrals. Numbers of referrals are skyrocketing because we have kids that are affected with mental illness, we have children that are born drug addicted, and we have kids that are physically disabled. And that's the fundamental core. So why should they get service? Why should we only be serving 20 kids and capping it when these families need service? So again, I'm not trying to pull at your heartstrings, but that's what we do for a living. Okay? So as a result, the unintended consequence is everything goes through the roof. And so that's where we are. And so as a result, my budget, our budget relies on then what can I fiscally do? What can I do that's in good structural sense? I need to split this position. I need to let the disability benefit specialist be in the ADRC and work under the intergovernmental agreement of the Barron and Rusk County ADRC. Okay? Then I need to let Ashley Nelson have an additional 0.66, because there's already 0.33 there, but 0.66 for one FTE additional in children's long-term support so that they can serve this population. Okay? So here's the fiscal side of it. This is my favorite part. Is right now the way it sits before getting notice this morning, the person that is in the current position that we're talking about, they have a fiscal impact of about $58,000 until the cross-employment was implemented. Okay? That then became about the position $62,810.84 would be the CLTS side of it. The DBS side of it would be $73,689.94. That's taking into account full health insurance package, taking into account all of those kinds of things. Because you have to budget that way. okay? Person comes in, they don't take health insurance, the cost is gonna be lower, okay? But the fundamental numbers are what you see right there, that's the cost. Right now, 33% of that is CLTS, 66% on paper is DBS. But based on caseload size and where their time study and where they're working and all those types of things, we're spending way more time, the DBS person is spending way more time in CLTS because of the caseload. Okay? So that's the fiscal impact. Okay? Is essentially we're gonna add those to being full-time positions each. Okay? The good news is the disability benefit specialist, we get state money, because it's a mandatory position, we get state money, grant money, that pays about 22%, give or take. It's about $15,000, give or take, of the position. We then have Medicaid drawdown. Anybody that they work with that has Medicaid, they can get reimbursement for their case management. That ends up being about another $12,000 to $15,000, okay? And then the rest is absorbed within our ADRC, other granting and levy, okay? On the other side of it, children's long-term support has a humongous potential for Medicaid drawdown for their case noting and their case management. In fact, you can see, if I go back to this chart, that these are, the left-hand side, the yellow, is our in thousands, our case management that we received. In 2018, you can see it was $92,000 between those positions, and that was because we did not have a CCS population, okay? When they're in CCS, if they're duly enrolled, you can only bill one Medicaid, okay? And generally it goes to CCS. So you can see how that's now shifting back to where in 2022, we had $78,000, almost $79,000 in revenue generated by case management. That didn't include fourth quarter, and so that's way near $100,000. Now, if you add 0.66 additional, that number's only going to get bigger because they're able to spend more time with their families. They're going to do appropriate case management, and they're going to draw down that Medicaid. Okay, so it helps offset the cost of paying for that. Okay. I've highlighted all the considerations. I can't tell you, is the staffing level, the intense supervision that Ashley Nelson and Kathy Walters as the admin team provide to the two staff working on these positions, and then in addition to CCS duly enrolled positions, is intense. We've got kids and families that have needs that we need to appropriately address. So if we don't do it now, I'm going to be back to you because it's something we have to address. We're past the point of showing them the case management time that they need. With the person leaving, it's going to intensify a bit because it's not on as a part of my presentation today, but there's an opportunity where this person's willing to not only give notice now that they would leave on May 29th, which gives a lot of time for recruitment and hopefully then an onboarding and maybe a little bit of crossover, but it's back to that same old adage is we have a person exiting that has been very good at their job, and what kind of crossover can we have? Is there maybe a potential of an LTE position down the road that person can help to onboard the person that would start to take that position. So the ask is this. The ask is to split the position that is currently 66% disability benefit specialist and 33% children's long-term support. The job descriptions have already been determined by the JDQ process, and so there's no, we don't have to approve any job description, I don't think. I think I would want to have a discussion about the understanding has been 66% DBS and 33% CLTS, but we have it on here where they are already split out that you have a CLTS and disability benefit specialist or benefit specialist.
Jeremy, the one that's leaving, how far out of the wage category are we talking? Is it a big increase? Elsewhere or what?
Oh boy, in open session, I gotta tell you this. There is a ton of contributing factors that this person's leaving. Not just wage is an impact. Probably $3 an hour.
We're in the ballpark, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100% we're in the ballpark. This person's been with us for a fair amount of time, and they exceed the expectation of the position. I'm just saying, is that they are a go-getter. They are a person that goes above and beyond to learn the manual that's this thick for children's long-term support. And so you don't just replicate that. You have to teach that.
So it's not totally wage then, right?
No. There's some significant other concerns that this person is moving on from our.
Make me feel a little better that way.
So you guys and gals, this is great. There are other people that might, stomp all over this document for wage adjustment. This is great. This thing spells out for human services that we're pretty close. I mean, we're in the ballpark. We're low, but we're close. We're ballparking it now. Okay, and I'm very thankful for that. So
Thank you.
So again, a lot to digest. I'm sorry. There's no easy way to show this other than what I've done. Again, the ask is I would need to go to finance. This would be, I still think there's probably a county board resolution part of this that we can't just set aside, is that the job descriptions are there, the positions are created. We're just separating a person that's been a dual position that we can no longer accommodate. We could accommodate that when we had a wait list. When we shut down the caseload for children's long-term support at 20, the person that was an FTE did 15 of them, the other person did 5 of them. It was simple, okay? It was 75%, 25%. It was very easy. I don't have that luxury anymore.
Is there any other questions for Jeremy at this point?
Jonathan's got a question.
So that $27,765, you can absorb that. I apologize if you said this already, but can you absorb that with your budget, or is that gonna have to be
The 27,000,
the estimate on the bottom line?
yes, right here. Yes, so that's just what we get based on the 2022 DBS side of things, okay? So 100%. Again, I can't promise you this, but the Medicaid reimbursement for case management is going to be very impactful to our budget, because the person will be productive, with their productivity, will be meeting or exceeding with their families. And so they'll be drawing down that Medicaid case management. I can't tell you it's gonna be dollar for dollar, okay? But it's gonna be impactful.
It's actually almost an impossible ask than what the true financial levy impact would be.
Correct. I can guess it for you here. Seriously, I can tell you that based on the CLTS side of things, if a person takes at the $23.30 hour step 1, the fiscal impact is $62,810.84 based on the current wage. Okay.
But what you can't tell me is how much of that would be levy or how much of that would be full reimbursement.
I can't tell you. When we reconcile children's long-term support the next year, I can give you a better number to say, hey, this was the impact. We were already paying 33% of this, give or take. Okay. The other 66%, it's going to take a couple of years to flesh that out, because that person is going to have to be trained. There's going to be a lot of necessary non-billable time, because the person's got to get trained. And so there's a fiscal impact there.
So it'd probably be pretty safe to say 66%.
You could say 60%.
Without putting you on the spot.
100%. That's why I put it in red.
At 66%, do you have that in your budget currently, or is that something that's gotta be a budget adjustment?
So here's the beauty, okay, is our budget.
Still a lot of beauty over there.
A lot of beauty over here, okay, that's why I sit by myself. Very optimistically, our budget, when we budget without putting fluff in there, because that's not a good budgetary tool, is it's very fluid. We're gonna get infrastructure dollars that I just learned about yesterday in public health, okay, that are gonna offset our levy ask in public health. And so that'll save money that we can use in another part of the budget. And so I'm not gonna have to race back here to say, hey, I need another 40,000 type of thing. The other component is, and again, you can't bank on these things, but there are real things happening in front of us. We've been without a health officer since November 30th of 2022. We now have a health officer starting like June 1st, okay? The person's going to start at step 1 of our new tool, okay? Which is almost a $6 savings per hour, okay? So again, the person's gonna have to train, they're new to us, they're gonna knock it out of the park, okay? But that's a fiscal saving, $6 an hour times 2,015 hours, okay? So again, can't budget that, okay? Can't think like that, okay? There's some pliability within our budget that we draw down other grant money that helps us stay under that like $900,000 levy. Can't keep chucking this at you either, okay? But 7 departments in Wisconsin operating under $900,000 in levy, we're the only one, okay? That doesn't mean, hey, let's do more raises, okay? That doesn't mean, hey, just give me a blank check, okay? But we are very fiscally responsible, and we are doing the right things. I can be real, okay? But for a good majority, I think we're doing a very good job. Our staff is doing an outstanding job in the parameters that we're given to keep that levy ask. Because that's in the back of my mind always. Financial accountability and responsibility is always in the back of our mind. We gotta do some stuff. We gotta serve our population.
Of course, the other counties are, how's their population? We got what, 15,000? How are they?
Yeah. So
that or twice that.
I only compare apples and apples, Mr. Stout. And so Burnett County, Washburn County, Price County, they're spending $1 million in children and family services and levy. Okay.
Population close.
Pretty close. Pretty close. But again, I can't budget that way. I can't promise you, because we're low now and we've been low for a bunch of years. We're one family away from moving in that needs out-of-state placement at 80 grand a clip. That's happening around us. And so again, we take a different approach. We do the mobile crisis to meet people in crisis so we can help case plan them. Our staff is out face-to-facing our families and talking about services, whether it's one end of the spectrum or the other. Wow, what a way to start Thursday. Yes. So,
Any other questions?
Move ahead to finance, or what do we do here then?
It's got one, yeah.
We should proceed.
so my specific motion ask would be approve the splitting, the separating of the disability benefit specialist and children's long-term support position. And with the understanding that those job descriptions are already created, okay, those are just separate full-time employment opportunities. And we would take it to finance and have that discussion.
All that he said.
I have a motion on the floor.
Move to the
Yep, to move it ahead to finance. As Jeremy explained, I'm not gonna try to reiterate. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Undershoots. Is there any further questions or comments on the motion that's on the floor? None being heard, in favor signify by aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm very appreciative of your time this morning and putting up with me. Clocks aren't working in here, maybe purposely. You can't tell how long I've been here. Just a quick thing. Again, Rich usually comes down and talks about commitments and some of that kind of stuff. We have, as county board supervisors and people in our community, we We have 2 folks right now that are on our radar that have significant mental illness that are not being treated. They're being treated, but they're not adhering to their treatment plan, okay? And as a result, our department is desperately trying to get a hold of them. It's terrible. We're trying to case plan them effectively because they're having significant difficulty. Nothing more.
Are they a threat to anybody,
Um,
other than themselves or not?
They are not at this point in time because when our assessment has been done, we have not been able to take them into custody because they didn't meet that criteria. Okay? That being said, that's a rolling target. That could change at any point in time. But as you guys and gals hear about these kinds of things in the community, it's very important to us that if you see anybody that's having difficulty, please let the sheriff's department know or the police department so that they can help them launch our mobile crisis so we can do assessment with them to determine their safety level. We've got a whole bunch of folks that we case manage. There's 12 people on our community support program that are living in our community effectively with significant mental illness, bipolar, schizophrenics, those types of disorders. They're doing great because they're properly medicated and they are receiving case management. That's a fundamental area, making a fundamental core. And the beauty is, Jonathan, the beauty is that they're living in the community and they're successful. And so that's what we do. But I will always take the opportunity to make a plug for. If you see something, say something, not just at the airport. So, thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful Easter. You too. We'll see you at finance.
Okay.
And let me know if there's anything with the mobile crisis and the on-call and all those kinds of things. I would love to be a part of any of that discussion.
I guess you're up.
All right.
Needs more coffee.
Yeah. All right. We are actively recruiting for part-time help at the animal shelter, highway seasonal worker and summer help, jailer dispatchers, maintenance summer help, and meal program assistant cook and subs. Interest in our summer help jobs was low, so I reached out to each of the different high schools and asked that they put up I put the job description on a sheet and then put like a QR code, and we got a few applicants off of that. Those positions close here in the next couple of weeks. As Jeremy might have mentioned, Sharon, she just started a few weeks ago as our environmental health specialist. She is leaving. She got a different job offer down in Madison. So we are already recruiting for that position as well. Her last day is the 14th. Kelly out at the Visitors Center is leaving as well. She received an offer for a full-time position and currently with us she's part-time. Her last day is April 21st. In the last couple of weeks, offers have been accepted for our fair intern. Her name is Hannah and she'll start in May. A maintenance tech. His name is Brian and he starts on Monday. And a forestry tech, his name is Alex, and his expected start date is the 24th. And then of course Jeremy mentioned we have hired a public health officer. And she is finishing up school, so as soon as she's done with school, she will come on board with us.
Any questions for Ashley?
Yeah, I am really excited how the last several interviews have gone. We've had, I mean, it's some, like, the forest tech choice was hard. Jared and I called 4 people's references. We did social media checks. We were looking for anything to help us make that decision. They were all great candidates.
What's nice to know is people still need to go to that profession.
We are deciding when to schedule those interviews. 6 applicants. Yep.
Ashley, do you want to talk in the AmeriCorps positions?
Oh, sure. So extension is looking to add 2 AmeriCorps positions. One would focus on STEM, one would focus on military veteran type things. The reason I wanted this to come to personnel is because extension is proposing from
to other expenses, because this would be a contracted service type.
Right, so we would be taking wages from what we would typically pay an intern and turning that into, right, so I think it should hit this committee.
So one person for what?
STEM, STEM.
One would be in Clamwell School, correct?
That's what she proposed last night.
Yeah.
I think it was the STEM part.
Yes.
This is also kind of a semi messed up deal, please correct me if I screw this up. But it'll land 23 and 24, because through the school systems with a split year, this position would start in September and end, I think, in April, she said. Is
Yeah,
it?
it go through the school year.
Okay, I thought she said different yesterday, but I could be wrong. So it's gonna be, it's gonna impact 2 years, not just one.
As part of the care board. What does this have to do with the kids?
Not as much as you think. The STEM, I think, the way it was explained, and granted, it was explained yesterday afternoon. I had another meeting last night, so I haven't been able to look into it at all. The STEM is, oh, God, I got my stuff mixed into it. Science,
Technology,
technology,
engineering.
yeah.
Okay, so the fair board has to pay for part of this, donations. We pay for part of that, so.
This is different from the junior care intern.
No, we pay for part of sheriff's salary too.
Or who's,
Sheriff,
this isn't Shars though, this,
but we pay for part of this, right?
What intern are we talking?
the extension intern. So it was that Alyssa Mayer previously.
Okay, so that does not come to the fair. That was one thing that was unclear yesterday.
My concern would be reallocating a large portion of what's budgeted for outreach to the entire community to be specific to one school.
And I won't disagree with that. I will say, I think part of this, I questioned the veterans deal yesterday in my own mind too. But, the STEM part of it, I think, is a good thing. My only concern is I wish it could cover more than one school.
I think it should, I think if it's a county-sponsored AmeriCorps position, it should not be based in one
For
school.
one school. And I don't know, I guess some more digging would have to be done, I think, with Lori to decipher how this can work. Is it, can it be based in one school as some of the FFA and other students be moved there for parts of this, or something to that effect? And them answers, I haven't got.
Right, I personally don't think we have quite enough information yet.
I would agree.
That's what it sounds like.
I would agree.
What did we pass? Personnel.
Why don't you put it on the agenda later on when you have more information?
Or-
Well,
This is the first time.
This is
it's
the
ever
first
happened.
time.
And did the housing question come up yesterday?
Yeah, it was something about like, if we do go with this, they'll be eligible for like $10,000 worth of housing assistance, but not from,
That's
not
from
from
the,
us.
from the state,
So
from
we wouldn't have
extension,
Right.
state extension, but it's, my own opinion, I think there's too many unanswered questions here, so I'm going to just postpone it till later on and bring it up.
Well, they had to give some type of like,
I-
by tomorrow,
We
it was
do.
the 7th, right?
Yeah, but I told her that there wasn't going to be a
A final
decision,
answer.
because it has to go through finance, for the funding.
But the way she discussed yesterday, as long as we were actually looking at this and moving forward, pick a word sheet. No, it wasn't. What's that? Yeah, there you go. Yep. That they could say, yeah, it's very probable or not, but it isn't a flat out no, you know, the county is moving forward, so. But I do think there's more information needed.
Yeah, it sounds pretty vague right now. That's what I gathered up, but.
It was actually, short numbers and costs, so.
Well, if it would have to go, I know this. I don't know enough about it, I guess.
Do we even know enough about it to put it on the finance agenda for the 18th?
I don't think so.
It still has to come through personnel first, though.
And Lori wasn't gonna be able to make the meeting for the 18th anyway, so she was thinking.
I think so, Jim, because we budgeted for wages for an intern. And I think if we are gonna take away from a wage line, I think that needs to come through you.
I would agree with you.
Oh.
You wanna send it back to the extension again, or we got personnel?
I don't think there's really no where it's at. Extension's gonna have to get some more information.
I need 5 minutes. I can do it if you wish, sure, but I got no fire.
At this point, we'll take a 5-minute recess. You got a phone, but I don't got a phone. You're okay.
He left.
Reaction, but you know.
Oh. I never thought of that, thanks.
I didn't think about that. Well, we were. No.
Wait, I'm supposed to take them?
We had a tournament.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Is mine now?
You want,
You have a pen then?
I don't know, up there.
That's nice, because you probably should request it. Yeah.
Y'all want? No. Okay. Good one.
I just like, I like those, mine too. I guess from
200.
forestry. Really? Yeah, I like it from forestry because like when I had all that small stuff to do, I needed that fine line, so. What's happening for Easter? You catching the Easter bunny?
The Easter bunny by us, it's turkeys.
No, no,
Yeah,
I'm very.
Oh.
I didn't know 30.
Between 30 and 40 of them in our yard. Wow, we've got the courts, it's finally stopped, yeah. But you know what, to be honest with you, Bob, I'm glad they had it, because what else, you know, as much snow as we had. Yeah. tell you what, I'm looking for,
Oh,
I'm afraid that's coming to us, it worms up to the north of us, I'm afraid that's coming.
So union meeting start working on it.
Huh?
So union meeting start working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in session. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session, so second. Mr. Undershoots? Yes. Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Stout? Yes. Mr. Ratz? Yes. And yes. We are now in closed session. At this time, I would entertain a motion again to go into closed session. Motion's made, is there a second?
Somebody take minutes.
Yeah, I'll be right back. So we're in closed session again? Okay.
I'll make a motion. Motion has been made, is there a second?
Do we need, does it need to be upon their approval?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, like I said, all right, sorry. I'll. Oh, good.
Motion's made by Mr. Stout, seconded by Mr. Undershoots. Questions, comments? None being heard, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? Second, yeah. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Can you sign these? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's
Be like sitting
You would've
outside
showed
the
up
building
at 3, wouldn't you?
Hey, but no one disagree with you.
Yeah, there you go.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Good. How about you?
All right.
That's good.